Hi, it's Table It Unscripted. Today, let's talk about gender equality and how it is very necessary and important for all of us to be advocates for gender equality. Now, this is most especially for men, but of course not limited to men. And I say this because I see that many men are usually triggered or very quick to react when they hear gender equality or feminism. And I wonder, well, like, have you actually taken your time to know what this movement are for? What this movement genuinely advocates for, right? And not what you feed yourself on social media, especially Twitter. And I'm saying this because I want you to know that for every sect, for every religion, even, you would find fanatics everywhere. So I do not think we should go by what the extremists of a particular movement tends to portray. But then when we make research for ourselves, and I'm always advocating for people like seeking knowledge. There are resources out there. This is a tech age. So it shouldn't be like something very hard for you to research about genuinely, not what you see extremists or fanatics or even people that barely know what the movement is about, what they portray, right? So why it's not limited to men, and I'm also calling on the women folks to listen, is because we also have some women saying, oh, thank God I'm not a feminist. I don't go by all of this idea. I'm a traditional woman. I'm going to be a traditional wife. Come forward. Let's have a discussion. When we demand for gender equality, we are not asking that your wives become husbands. Nah. Neither are we asking for benefits at the detriment of men. No. Simply put, gender equality is ensuring that everyone has equal opportunity and access to resources regardless of their gender. So, in quotes, let me quote that, regardless of what gender this person has, they should be able to have equal access and opportunities to basic human things. This is like saying that gender equality is the same as human rights and is equally the same as humanity. Because I hear most people say, I'd rather be a humanist than be a feminist. It is likely the same. And I'll tell you why. So, gender equality seeks to ensure that everyone has equal access to opportunities and resources. These opportunities include education, fair payments, wages, salaries, as we know, and also healthcare, amongst every other thing. And also seeks to eliminate gender-based violence and discrimination. From what I just defined, saying that no one should have to be discriminated because of their sex, because of their gender, right? What actually broke the camel's back for me, it has made this discussion an important one to have, is this legislator, Niger State House of Assembly Speaker, who is sent to marry 100 girls who have recently been orphaned by banditry in the north. Can you imagine that? How laudable that is, Mr. Speaker. Where is the place of education for these girls? Why is the default thought always marriage when it comes to the girl child, when it comes to women? Why marriage? Why won't you just, give them scholarships to go to school, to study, to see the world differently so that they can equally become better people for themselves, have better future, be leaders. Girls can lead too, because we see what they do for repentant terrorists. After they capture Boko Haram's bandits, they come to tell us that they've repented, and so they're sponsoring their education to so country. They are investing in them to reinstate them into the community. They are forgiving. To think presently, 7.6 million girls are out of school in Nigeria. And 14.1% girls are out of school in sub-Saharan Africa. So you would think that as a legislator, you should have these figures and only make policies that seeks to, contain the high rise of girls being out of school. But what do we have? He's adding to the problem. And also, I want to chip in that I think we should let it go, having to always, bring a scenario down to men to say, that could be your sister. What if that was your daughter? They are not your sister and you are not your daughter. But Does it make it any less a concern for you? And something does not affect us directly does not mean we cannot lend our voice. It's a whole different ballgame for women, because ordinarily, like I say, this is already deep rooted in culture. Like it's what most people have imbibed right from the family setting, and then they bring it out when they become leaders, they become policymakers. Because tell me where it's coming from for this lawmaker to only think towards that direction. You are not thinking of investing in them to be, tech gurus, girls in tech too, to be groomed as scholars, to be groomed as seasoned, business women. You're not thinking towards that direction. It has to be marriage. And then we wonder why women are likely to be on the high rate of poverty. We wonder why women are vulnerable and are sometimes at the mercy of men for upkeep, for money. We also wonder why women are the most susceptible to gender-based violence and sexual harassment. Everything boils down to the lack of education and access to adequate resources, which in turn would, empower a woman. Now, I'm going to give a scenario that is very peculiar. These are stories that most of us have heard. Even if you don't know someone who has happened to, you've heard it. You probably even know someone who it has happened to, right? So this is like a story of a family setting, for instance, where the parents and the children, and in a situation whereby the parents cannot cater equally to the educational needs of the children. We have heard this countless times, where the girl child in the family are either meant to like hold on, while the boys in the family, or the boy in the family, is the boy's education is catered for, or in other cases the boy goes to like a more equipped school, and then the girls have to go to like the less standard school because the resources cannot go round. This is where the problem is. I do not need to state it. We've seen it. That someone is a girl child does not make them a second-class child in their parents' house before their parents' eyes. I mean, what is humanity, right? In this scenario that I just pointed, what is fundamental human right? And what is gender equality in this scenario that I've just pointed? It's all shades of wrong to put a child over another, let alone putting the need of your child according to their gender, according to their sex. We've heard this story play out not once, not twice. And this is deep rooted in culture, the patriarchal cultural system, so to say, that promotes men being leaders, men being providers for their family, for their households. And so families will think, because the boys are meant to be leaders, they are meant to lead, they are meant to be the provider. So we equally need to equip them with the resources, which is in this case education, for them to become better people in the future, so then they can be leaders and providers for their family. You see where that rot is from? And that girls will be married off, and their husbands will do for them what is required of their upkeep in the home. And as such, women do not need education as much as men do, because after all, they will be provided for. After all, they will be catered to by their husbands. Why? You as a parent, that's you putting the future of one child above the other just because they are girls. So when I also talk about pay grade, like salaries in workplaces, we also know, this is also a known fact, that men usually get paid more than their women colleagues at work. We've also heard about the story of Oprah, how she had to leave her job because her colleague was getting paid and she was getting paid 22,000, and her colleague was paid $50,000 thereabouts, and because he's a man. So when she went on to say, oh, why is this? We're doing the same job, we're anchoring the same thing, why is he getting paid? The boss had to ask her, do you have a family? Do you have a house? Do you have children? And that's why he's getting paid than she does. She's like, but we do the same thing. It doesn't have to matter. I do the same anchoring he does, even if not better than he does. So she left that job. On what basis is that fair? To think that you have the same capacity, you have the same capability as a man, but you would not get paid equally. Rather pay you lesser than the male. stuff, right? So I look at these things and I'm like, why? Why won't everyone want to be a feminist? Why would you want to sit back and let and be fine that a particular gender is getting benefits than the other gender? Anyone who is a humanist should frown at this idea. Now let's look at the political scene, for instance. The amount of men that has come out to contest and they are still aspiring to be president, and the support they get during the election. And then imagine a woman comes out and wants to be president. She's laughed at, and people would sometimes even make jokes like, don't, how is she going to manage being president and their own front? Doesn't she have children? But nobody's asking the men if they have children or not. As far as they want to be president, they can be president.